Hello, NG Houston. So tonight we had a couple of panelists who could not make it. So it's me and David, and we're going to do some unit testing. I think this is going to be a great presentation. But first, I want to introduce David. So David from Hamburg, Germany, and it's like the middle of the night over there. So you're a super trooper for hanging out with us so late at night. You want to say hello?
Hello.
Okay, and I was going to have you introduce yourself, but you have a slide for that. So if you want, you can share your screen and jump right into it and show us some Angular unit testing stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I take over.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you see me?
Yep. Well, I can see your screen.
Okay, then I take over. So I hope you see me.
Yep.
Wait. Okay, here are my slides. And there's also some information about me. Yeah, this is me. I'm David Muellerchen from Hamburg. I'm a JavaScript developer for more than 15 years now. I'm a freelancer. I do a lot of consulting and workshops in companies and open workshops where you can book your seat and join us or join me and learn about front-end stuff. And the last few years, mostly Angular, for sure. Yeah, I have a blog, which is not that active. Yeah, every time when I find my spot and can generate some content, then I blog some stuff. But yeah, the last months were very busy for me, so there will come some stuff. Yeah, then my GitHub account is webdave with a dash. The code from these slides are there in the repository, so you can find this. Find stuff I do there. Feel free to fork, clone, and pull request, whatever. And you can, for sure, you can find me on Twitter, webdave.de, webdave_de. Yeah, I don't tweet any stuff about cats or dogs, just test stuff. And this. So yeah, that's me. This is my picture. I nearly look like this most times. When I'm not doing workshops, then I'm a senior developer at HQ Labs, a few hours a week. Yeah, we have a business software for projects and jobs. Yeah, you can see it. If you are a freelancer and you are looking for some tooling to manage your daily workflow, then you should stay tuned for this URL, lohq.io. We will come up with very cool stuff in the next weeks. Yeah, HQ Labs. And for sure, I'm not only doing workshops for my own, I also do workshops at the platform Workshops Day, which is part of the Angular JS community. Yeah, we do public workshops and in-house workshops. Not only Angular, but many stuff what's related to the web. And last but not least, very important, I'm one of the organizers of the Hamburg meetup in Angular meetup in Hamburg. If you are around here in Hamburg, feel free to join. Ping me. We can very quick organize the meetup, and then you can do a talk if you want, and yeah, help us. Or you can come to like me and do a talk, a hangout. It's also possible. Okay, let's talk about testing. Testing. There was a talk about testing a few months or weeks ago, I saw. Testing is very important, so let's go in a bit deeper in this topic. Yeah, it's very important because testing is the guarantee to be sure that your code will work even if you change something. So if you don't write test, you can't be sure that your code will work after some changes. So very important. The URL under this test is the URL to the slide. So if you want to click around with the slides, feel free and make your copy, comment, whatever you want to do. Take it. Okay. In Angular, when we're using tests, then we mostly we do this using the Angular CLI, and the CLI are very great. Yeah, and for tests we're using Karma as a test runner. It's a very great tool. In Germany, we know it's very difficult to find this in Google. If you Google Karma, then you find some stuff, but not this test runner. But it's a German problem.
What do you find?
You can find it at karma.github pages or something like this.
What do you find in Germany if you Google Karma?
Yeah, you find something like esoteric stuff about karma. Watch your karma and this. It's strange. Yeah,
that's
you can
funny.
find some funny pictures about karma. Yeah. Okay. The second very important part about unit testing is Jasmine. I have a great sticker at my laptop, and my wife was very happy when she saw this sticker and read the name Jasmine. Guess why? It's her name, yeah. And so I don't told her that it's not she.
She thinks it's her. It's named after her. And that's funny.
Until I don't tell her that not, I don't meant her, so everything is fine here. I hope.
That's very romantic.
Yeah, for sure. To check out or to use the test in the Angular CLI, you just run ng test. With optional, you can dash cc for code coverage, and then the Karma kicks off and runs all the Jasmine tests. And this looks like this. You get some output with the UI, and you can see which tests are run and which are failed and this stuff. Just some reportings for this. And if you want to see all your spec list, then you click on this link. It's very hidden. It's not mentioned that this is a link. So click on it and you see all your tests, and you can see which is red and which is green for more for better view of all the big thing. Okay, this is the URL of Karma. You can configure it in the special file. Feel free to watch this. Take a look at this file and check out what you can do with the Karma. It's very great tool, very great tool, great work. Very famous procedure to write tests or to do your job is do it with TDD, test-driven development. It works in the most projects. It works very well. Sometimes you get some trouble with agile projects. Yeah, I know there's test-driven development is not the best case there, but if you want to do test-driven, then now I just want to explain. Everything starts with requirements. You have some requirements. The requirements says, okay, what do I want to do? I write some tests for this, run the test will fail because I didn't implement anything. Then I implement until my test pass, and then I can deploy my code to the web, and yeah, I'm done. And then come next requirements and all this stuff. This is the circle of test-driven development. Requirements, write tests, and then code until the test is green, done. And only if my code is, or all my tests are green, then I can deploy. The test should be also a part of your CI, so of your continuous integration stuff before deploying. So just only deploy if the tests are green. To get more information about Jasmine, visit this link and find a very huge and well-documented API. Very great. Tests are split in describes. So this is something like test suites. Yeah. And in these test suites, we can specify the test with the it statement. And you can pre-fly some stuff with before each or before all, and you can post-fly stuff, rollbacks after each, after all. Very cool stuff about the describe and it is that it takes string and the functions both, and the strings are the message of the tests after that. So you can see something like go back. My nav component should be created, and I can see that at the left side there is a green my nav component should be created. It's green, so I can see the result of the test from my describes. So it could be very easy to just take the if you are have some user stories or tasks, just take the text and the expectation of this user stories and write it into your describes and in your its, and then you can directly match your test against these describes, again these tests or user stories or tasks, whatever. So you have a perfect match between this, and you can see if you fit all the requirements from the project. The tests like this. We have the expectation, this one, and we have something called like a matcher. So expectation is just to test something, and then the matcher is to match it again, some functionality. There's some very cool matchers built in out of the box in Jasmine. If you need some more, you definitely should have a look at this repo from Jamie Mason or Mason, Jasmine matchers. He put together a bunch of very great matchers. You just import it into include it in your Jasmine files, well documented there in this repository, and then you can use all these matchers he found. So, but the matchers on the list over there are the standard built-in matchers of Jasmine. So we can just test if the expectation is to be or too close to be, or something like this. I guess you will get a picture of this. There are some very cool tricks to speed up your test while coding. You can just focus at one test by put the F in front of it. So it means instead of describe, you write F describe, and instead of it, you write F it. So then the Karma runner only runs the focused one. So you can just pick one test and code as long as until they get green, then remove the F.
Is that what the F stands? I couldn't figure out why it was called F. I was using that last week because I was working on a really big code base, and I don't want to run all the tests because it's like 500 unit tests, and so I just wanted to run the one that I was working on, and I was using F, and it was so fast, but I couldn't figure out why it was F. So F is for focused. I learned something new. I didn't know that.
F is focused, yeah.
There you go.
So Karma ignores all the others and just pick the focused one. And and if you have hopefully many tests like we did in our project, we have around about 400 now. Then you can see that it speeds up your test procedure if you just want to fix one test.
Yeah, that's pretty handy.
Yeah, and the other one is just to mute the test is the X before the describe or the it, so that you can see please run every test but this X. So just mute it. Cool tricks, very important. For For testing purpose, we have some very cool testing utilities. These are the TestBed, which is some kind of ng module for a testing purpose. Nothing else. Async, which is just a method you wrap around your test, and then Karma knows, okay, this is async behavior in this test, so I have to take care about it and just resolve the test, the expectation after the code in this test is done and all the async functionality is done. So, for example, something like async call to a server or trigger some observables or whatever. Yeah, just for this. Query is just to find some elements in your job which you can create with the while testing. Query all is find all these elements, and by is just to condition this this search, what you find, just to get the stuff. We will see later how I use it in my component, all this stuff. TestBed, I said, yeah, is this just something like a ng module? It's named TestBed configure testing ng module, testing module. And if you take a look at this configuration object, is very ng module like. We have declarations, we have imports. Yeah, we can have providers and all this stuff. Just like
I feel like we're spoiled. Back in AngularJS, there was so much more code that we had to write to do that, and now it's just like so easy and nice. I love it.
Yeah, they did a very great job just to make more developer writing tests. So if you don't help the developer writing tests, make it more easier, then they won't do it.
For sure.
If it's too complicated, they will do it. Okay, yeah, this is just an ng module like stuff. And very important is that the configuration of the ng module is an async functionality, because all the imports must be resolved and all the declarations must also be instantiated, and all the dependencies must be set. So this is an async functionality, otherwise it would break. And this compile component is the same step as the bootstrap step in the mostly in your main TS. If you start Angular CLI project, then there is a bootstrap step, which means here is my bootstrapping the application. So what we see is just an Angular application, but only for testing purpose. Very important topic while testing is mock. Yeah, mock means yeah, if I want to test something, I don't want to test the dependencies. So, for example, if I want to test my service, I don't want to test the backend. So it means I want to limit my tests to my specific unit, like the service, not to the REST backend. So I don't want to see what is getting back. I don't want to wait for the backend. I just want to test my service. And this brings me to the next point. It makes my test more consistent. So I can maybe the backend will change and bring different information, same way, but different informations. And then I would have to update my tests because of new data, and this is not a very good way. So I don't want to update my test only to get it pass because of the data have changed. So if you mock the test or you do dependencies, then you can be sure that you said, okay, I want to get, for example, I want to get users with my service, and then I just mock the response of the REST client with a specific user, and this will never change. So I can write tests against very consistent dependencies and responses. Yeah, dependencies means, as I mentioned, dependencies injections, stuff like services, service calls with response, and route params. or the router params. These are very important, very often mock dependencies we need in our applications. How? Yeah, this is just a mock service. There's two ways. This is a mock service to mock the service to get it used in some components, for example. So I named it book service stub. Yeah, it's a mock, I know, but the name was so namely so that I can see, okay, yeah, it's a stub. No, but it's a mock if the functionality is. And the book at the top is just a shrinked book object I expect to getting from getBook from the backend. And for testing, I can say, okay, I want to use my test uses providers. I need the book service, and in my providers, I just wrap this mocking object. I said, okay, provide book service, but use class book service stub. It means, in real words, if book service is requested to provide, then please use this mock service, this book service stub, and then I can mock all my data in my service, and I just have to write it once and use it with this wrap object, and then I'm done. But sometimes it's way more easier just to write a spy. Spy means it's just a JSMine functionality which you can use to intercept your test, your testing components, or whatever you want to test, your testing unit, and listen for methods to call. And then you can do with this method whatever you want if they are called. So you can, for example, you can listen to service.getBooks methods, and then you can decide, okay, if this method is called, then I can respond some default mock data. So I don't have to write, in this case, I don't have to write my own stubs or book service mocks. I can just mock it with a spy. Way too much words. So let's see the code. Just this last line. It provides, I hope you can see my mouse. The provider says it's the book service, it's the original service, and I just use the spy on book service and the method getBook. And if it found, then I want to return the observable of book. That's it. That's all I have to do with the mock if I want to use the spy. Just the one-liner. I hadn't thought about this for a very long time. Then on one of the last conferences I attend, Angular Connect, I met Ward Bell, and he came up with this idea. Well, why do you want to write mocks? Just use a spy. And then I thought, oh yeah, I was stopping to think about spies in this use. So yeah, it's very great. So this is the original service. I can get it from the dependency injection for my component, and then this is just my mock.
I actually had Ward Bell on right after NgConf last year, I think, and he did a whole thing. He was talking about unit tests, but it was very like you have to watch this first and understand unit tests, and then you watch that one, and it's like crazy. Ward is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's very great. We had a very great football session in the hotel.
Yeah, I never did play football with him. That sounds pretty fun.
So I'm very looking forward to NG Viking because he will be there, and I hope we will have very much fun.
Yeah, he's cool.
Back to topic. Route params are the next big topic we have to mock because we don't want to set up all the router params or router configs in our test. This is just to show what I mean when I say router params. Just this colon ISBN means, yeah, this section of the URL is then the route params. I guess you know that. Yeah, and for this, for router purpose, we are for router and testing purpose, we have this great router testing module, which means just import it, and then you have all the router related stuff like router outlet and the router link stuff. Yeah, I get it from the dependency injection and mock it with a spy on route and params, and then return with the object ISBN, which means I'm back, just this path. Then you can mock your data from the route without having any route, just in your tests. Very big topic at the moment are all the Redux stuff. So, for example, in Angular world is NgRx store. Yeah, and we also want to test this because we want to test everything. Yeah, and we want to be sure that our NgRx stuff works probably on every change. So reducers are part of this Redux stuff. We have some parts. If you want to learn more about Redux and this stuff, listen, watch some videos on YouTube or join my workshops. Yeah, the reducer is just a pure function. So yeah, it's a dream for every tester because it's very easy to test. Just a pure function. So we just want to just have to call it. This is my example reducer. It means just yeah, it's a reducer which takes two params, state and action, and then returns the new state and just switch cases on the type and returns the state responsible of this. Yeah. If I want to test this, that's all I have to do. Just say, okay, I generate some action I want to do, load books, whatever it means. And then I just call this method books reducer with some initial state, which is just at least the empty object and my actions. And then after that, I can expect that my books are in the new state. That's it. So very easy, very easy to test. So blame on you if you don't test reducers because they are so easy. But are very important, because if your reducer are not doing well, then all your application state sucks and your application also. And you are looking for issues which you can't imagine. I know that. I run all through this pain. Yeah. Yeah, and for sure, we want to check that we get the new object, so we can test that my new state books is the same as the state books, so it's changed. And but we have to be sure that this is a new object, because reducers returns a new object, not the same. This is the paradigm of the Redux. Actions. The events, if you want to name it like this, of the Redux, and they are just classes, so they are also very easy to test, because we just want to set it up and then check if some variables of it are set like I expected. For example, this is my load book action. Yeah, it's a class which implements the interface action, but these actions just make sure that you set a type. Yeah, so this is all this implementation makes sure that you implemented this class get this type, which is the most important part of this class. So it's okay to implement this action. Yeah, and the type is just this load book, and I give to the constructor, I get the new book array, which then set up the public attribute books. And if I want to test it, Very easy. Just set up some books. Yeah, naming is not the same. And I just start instantiate with the keyword new because it's a class. And then I can expect that the type is the right, and also the books are the same length that I expected. And I can check if the I can even check if the title of this book is the right. So mock book, go back. Yeah, should be mock book. So this test should be green. So if you see, you can see it's very easy to test. Effects, the new, nearly new stuff of the NgRx. Not that new, but they are almost new. Let me say that. These are just action listener to actions. If you dispatch the action, just event. Yeah.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
I have a quick question from the chat. And actually, I don't know the answer to this question. Can we test mouse or keyboard events in unit tests?
For sure. We can test. We can spy on methods, on every method. So we can check on triggered from some DOM events.
I don't want to sidetrack you from effects because I want to see that too. But if you have time at the end, will you show us?
Yeah, we can try to code it live. Yeah.
If there's time, that would be awesome. That was a good question.
Yeah. Yeah. We can test effects too. Yeah. For this, this is my effect. It's just a class, or it's just a service. It gets the injectable. The effect is a Angular service which is not provided by an Angular module. It's just provided by the effects module. Very important. Yeah. Yeah, and this, for example, gets a load effect, which should trigger a ready books action, which does nothing in my case, just console log a message into the console, nothing else. Yeah, just listen to load books and then trigger the action. Yeah, and we can, to test it, we have to set it up. We can check then the metadata of this effect, which on the type generic type book effect. And you can see here's the effects module and the providers. In this test cases, we have to provide it in the module, but this is not the normal way. And then we can get it from the dependency injection, and we get the metadata of these effects. And then we can check it. We can check if the metadata.load is a dispatching method or effect. And yeah, it is. So this test should be green. That's the easy way to test it. Just to test, it should be a valid effect method. That's it. So, but there is some connection between the NgRx and my application for sure. Otherwise, I didn't need it. Yeah, it's the service or the components. In my testing case, it's the component, and we can test the usage and the behavior of the NgRx in my component too. So this is my component, my book list component, and books is just an observable which comes from my store. This store select, yeah, and I want to test it, yeah, and testing is just like this. I have to set up my my testing module again, just with the empty store in this case, and then I spy on the store and dot select. and then I return my book stub in this case, my observable of this book stub. So I can also mock this, and then I can see if my application behaves like it should, if it uses the store. And we mock the store because we don't want to test the store in this case, because we want to test the book list component in this case. Yeah, and then for sure we can test, and this is the first uses of query all and by. These are the testing utilities I showed in some previous slides. I can check, okay, I want to get this the debug element, and then query about this over this debug element and get this book preview components. And yeah, my testing mock holds 3 books, so I expect 3 elements of this. Yeah, and action can also be tested in my book list component, or in this case it's my service. We can check if they have been dispatched. For example, this is my get books from my service, and if someone triggers this method, then it will get some data from the backend, and then it will dispatch the load books method. And my test looks like this. It's a HTTP client test. Yeah, so I have to set up my my service and my backend. It's way more easier than the HTTP service from Angular 4 and 2. So HTTP client is very easy to use for testing. So I just say, okay, I want to call my service get books, this one. And the backend says, okay, if someone calls this is what is called in this message here, this part of this URL, then flush means response, the book stub, and just my object with my list with 3 books and with some status options, header stuff. And after that, I can expect that store.dispatch, which I spied on here in this line, have been called. And I also can check that my store.dispatch has been called with this action. Yeah, this is my action, load books with a book stub. Load books with books. So I give it to this is the call I mock, and I give it to this, and then I can check this that that the store dispatch with the action is called like this. Looks very easy, and it is. Okay, time for code. I'm waiting for my machine. So
I think with you and your superhero cape, it should say fly over to the code instead of hop over to the code.
Oh, yeah. I will change the wording after this, yeah. So this is my book list component. Yeah, this is a part of my Angular workshop. This is the reason why I name it like this and don't use some store selector, just to name it, to mention it before someone asks this. Because I learned and I saw that attendees of my workshops are very confused of selectors, and so if you use the right way for the store, it's way more easier to get in it. Yeah, this is my my book list component, which means just this is the component list, HTML stuff, some CSS. I think there is no CSS in this. Nope. But HTML just means I will do ng4 books and subscribe to it. Yeah. Yeah. And these books are coming from the store. And in my test, as I showed it just, I say, okay, in my test, I need these variables, elements, stores, pictures and this stuff. And I set up my state in this case. I hover it and then you can see it. Yeah, it's just a list of books. And then here's just this is just this ngModule-like config object. And you can see it's very familiar to ngModule. We get the book list and the book preview component which we need in the HTML, and the imports for the store module and the HTTP client, just to make this HTTP clients just works like a stub that this call is just that the test is running. And then, yeah, in this case, I don't use my spy on for mocking the book service. I use the book service stub, and this returns just a mock book. Yeah, and this is my spy for the store select. So just for seeing in the code. What else I want to show? Yeah, this is my reducer. It's very slow, but yeah, it's okay. Just to be sure that I check all my methods or all my switch cases in my reducer. Very important to test all your reducer switch cases, because to be sure that it works, everything in it. Regarding to the question, this is just a directive, which calls some event listeners for host elements by moving on it. And I can also show here some on-clicks elements on this element. I register them and then I log it. And in my test, I can use this. I hope this is the right answer for this question from the chat. You can see it has a button, and here I can send a click event on it and can check if the behavior is like I expected. So in this case, I just want to console log this, and that's the reason why I spy on console and the method log. And so I can see if I click on this button element, just let me show it. If it opens some way here, I register here on click and console log, and this is the test for this. Send click event to elements, and then just check if in this case, if the console log is called. You can send nearly everything to these elements. Yeah, when I just code, I guess I clicked. Oh yeah. So I'm a very good in typos. So I every time I'm looking for the help of the IDE. So I can use the blur event, for example. This is an event, and I can also listen for events like mouse over. No, it's not split person, but I can register here. I can trigger here events like mouse over and this, and then I can check if the test or if this button triggers the methods like I expected.
That's pretty awesome. I don't know why it doesn't come up in the IntelliSense.
Yeah, I would be very down without any intelligence, because yeah, I'm very good in. I know my Twitter handle looks like I can fly, but my real superpower are typos. I can type every time, even when I sleep.
Yeah, I think developing got a lot easier when we started, because I first learned with Notepad a long time ago, and then when I first got my code editor with the different colors and everything, I was so excited.
Yeah, it's very helpful. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. A way I go while testing or with testing is I very often generate some files which holds just some stubs for testings, just to make sure that my tests from other components which want to include this stuff work properly. So like this. So this is just these are just stubs to make sure that other tests are not failing. Yeah, something like this, a dummy component without a template, or my app book component with input and output, just to trigger this. I'm not sure if oh, I know it's not part of my slides, but I just want to show how you can test input and output of components. For example, my component here will get in my book list, or let me show you the book list. In this book list, it has an input and it has an output, and I can set this input to book of this list, and then I register this method on the output. Okay, and my book preview component looks like this. Nothing new, I guess. Just register an input, an output, and then just something to trigger this event. But for testing to test it, you just can set it. Oh, it's the wrong branch. So let's code it. So I can set my should trigger event and set the book. So this is my testing, okay? And so I can say component dot book is just to set a book equals bookmark, which means it's just one single book. I can hover it and then you can see it if I import it. It's just one single book. And then I can, very important, if you change something in your tests in the UI, then you have to trigger the change detection, because tests don't have a DOM like don't have the real DOM. They have something like dummy virtual whatever DOM, and there is no change detection cycle. So we have to trigger it by ourselves. For example, yeah, this is it. So now our component is set, has a book, and then we can trigger this method. So this is the method which triggers the event. Select this book, and then I can check that that the book selected, emitted, will hold this book. Like this. And this is the whole cycle. I can set the book, trigger the action, and then the output.
David, Yasmeet, I don't know how to pronounce that name, but I'm trying. How do you generate a report of how much code is covered? So like some companies, they require a certain percentage or some, even if it's not required, you have like a goal of how much of your code needs to be covered. So do you have a recommendation for how to measure that?
Yeah, code coverage is something very special. We can run code coverage with and check that we. Let me start. New start. You should test everything what is important, and every section of your code which is very important for your functionality. If you can show that this all is tested, then maybe the code coverage will be not that important. But mostly, if you test all this stuff, you have enough code coverage. And
I think the CLI will do that, won't it? Can you do
yeah.
a code coverage enforcement on the CLI?
Yeah, it's just ng test -cc. And this is running my test. I hope they're all green. And this here is just the flag to say the CLI, okay, test it and write then do a code coverage and write it to my folder. C. We will see something. There should be a new folder when my code coverage is done, which named coverage, I guess. And in there we can see so we're just waiting for the tests. It was here. Live breaking tests.
Sometimes it's stressful being the presenter because something goes wrong, and sometimes it's just some little thing, but it's hard when like everybody's looking at your screen. There's all this pressure. Like we always have, issues all the time. It's just we're not normally having issues while we're sharing our screen, so it's stressful. It's like it's bound to happen.
I don't know if this works well. Is it? Oh, I give it a chance. Yeah, I know it's not. Wait. Event title string. It's an error. Book review components back. Argument title. Okay, let me check. Hello. So I clicked, I heard it, but nothing happens. Okay. Line 33. strange. Do that, but I just want to check my tests.
And this is when the X comes in handy, because we have one test that's failing. We'll just exit. Just skip that test. It'll be fine. Production. I'm kidding. Don't listen to me, you guys.
So in our normal applications, we don't have something like this browser UI. We do it always headless and just see the output in the console. Way more faster. Let me try.
And while he's doing that, if you guys in the chat have any more questions, let us know.
Yeah. Go on with some question.
We have a chat in the chat, but not a whole lot of questions yet. I think, well, we've just been taking them as we go along and jumping them in there.
Okay, let's have a look for the questions.
We had them. No, I've been asking you as we went along.
We'll see beautiful UI with all green tests and the code coverage. I hope.
I don't see any errors.
That's good, or isn't it?
we've had people on that, like, it's, well, normally because we have more panelists, so we have more panelists, and then we'll sit there and try and figure it out, because because sometimes we have beginners that watch, and like, we've had some crazy debugging going on, and it's harder when you're on the hot seat, but it's also good because when you're a beginner, it's good to know how to debug it. Of course, now it's like the more Angular works, the more they have the best. They have such good error messages that it's super helpful. Just read the error messages.
Yeah.
I think it's crashing. It keeps crashing your browser. How many unit tests do you have in there, David?
Oh, not that much. Just about 20, something like this. So it shouldn't crash. Maybe it's because of the.
Maybe it's because you're live streaming at the same time.
Yeah, maybe. But last try.
Okay.
Crossing fingers.
I'm crossing my fingers.
Very good. No, it must
and
work.
Everybody watching, cross your fingers too. Let's see if it works.
Yeah. No, it should work. Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Okay, let's see while tests are running, hopefully, what we have here. Yeah, this is just this is just a standard test from the Angular CLI. Maybe he don't like to streaming and open the browser at the same time. We'll see.
Well, it seems to be, well, the first time it failed pretty quickly, so. Oh no, because it was well, these were some really good examples. I like the how to isolate a test and how to mock it out and all that.
it's very important to isolate tests because I don't want to test the backend because the backend is responsive for the backend guys.
Yeah, for sure. When I was doing tests, when I first started doing unit tests, it was there. We didn't have like the testbed configure. You know, it's we didn't have any of that. And I think when you go through and you have to write all the mocks and try to figure out how to mock a service and how to inject it, it was hard. And then we come out with these improvements, and it's so nice. It's like, oh, just it does like if you've been through the pain of writing all that functionality yourself, and then you can just do it like this, it's so wonderful.
Yeah, because it's the same way you write your applications and your modules because of the testbed. It's very common to you. Yes. Oh yeah, I know. Imports. Ah, these are the modules. Declarations. Ah, I know. These are my components. So no captured browser. Oh, it's green. No.
Hey. See, the fingers crossed did the trick.
Yeah.
And now if you go, how can you click in and see like the different tests? So you click in debug and you can see your individual tests.
You can see it if it's done, but it's just still running, I guess.
Yeah, but it sometimes will have little, it tells you, it has little dots and it has little.
Yeah, so I'm waiting. I'm waiting for this. So this one, yeah, is my.
Yeah, see, it'll actually flip through all the things that it needs to do on the. On the window.
Now I can just select one of these test cases. All of these darker gray names are my describes, and these green are my integrations or my its. I don't know if it's really integration tests. And here I can just check if it all works. For example, I can check my order button directive, and I can see should write the console if clicked. And then I can see I can just run this single test by clicking on the name, and I can see the result.
Do you have time? So now that it's, I don't want to push my luck because I know it's like the middle of the night over there, but do you have time real quick to show us what it looks like when it fails? Just like make one test fail.
Sure.
And you can even isolate one test and make it fail so you don't have to go through the whole thing.
Yeah, sure. Let's make this. So it's expect app, and I make it like this. Okay. Which one was app component?
I think sometimes I had this when I was writing a bunch of unit tests last week. Sometimes it didn't pick it up when it refreshed, and I would have to refresh it again.
So it's here in my terminal. It found the test. It says, "Oh, I expected app."
Yeah.
But I expected app underscore app underscore p, and I found this. And in my browser, it looks like this. There's an X, and all the others are muted because I forced this one, and it says, "Oh, expected app, but found ap underscore p." And now I can go through my code and just check why it's failing.
And do you keep this open? Like, do you just let it run and watch the code while you're working normally?
Yeah. In my daily job, I don't have this UI. I have all the time this one open, the terminal, and I can see all the tests and my force test and see what I have to do to make it green.
And it's faster without having that Chrome open.
Yeah, mostly because the Chrome has to kick up, and it feels for me. It feels like way more faster. I haven't measured it, but I think it should be way more faster. And the terminal just puts out the results of it, and it looks very fast.
That's so cool. This has been really fun. I think you should come back and visit us again. So this is part of your workshop, and you do the workshop so people can hire you to come and teach them this.
Yeah, I am. My workshop is split in multiple parts. Where I have the beginner workshop, which not covers the unit tests, because I just covered all the standard stuff like modules, components, pipes, directives, and this stuff. And then there are the advanced parts. I named them so. This means I cover in there. You can select some modules of this. One module is unit testing, then end-to-end testing, then view, change detection strategies. What did they do? How can I use? What is the behavior of it? Then NgRx translate is one of this module. NgRx store and effects. Sure. And I guess.
Do you do these workshops? Is it like for companies, or do you do public? Like if it's like one person wants to go to the workshop, or do they need to have like an in-house in a company?
No, I do both. I go to companies and make in-house workshop, but I also do public workshops where you can book a seat and say, okay, let's go to this workshop. I'm the only developer, or I want to train myself, or I want to be the only one and not responsible to my company. I will pay my own or do it by my own. Then you can book your seat and come to us, and we will do some workshops in all of Germany and all this German-speaking area. That means Switzerland and Austria also.
Where so where do you have like the upcoming workshops that you have scheduled so people can sign up? Well, people in Houston, it's pretty far away because he's in Germany, so you might not be able to go. But you can go, but that's pretty long. But for people local to you, how do they find the next dates that are available?
Ping me on Twitter. It's the easiest way, or go to workshops.de, I guess. Hope not mistyped. And then you can find Angular workshops, for example. These are all our workshops we provide and you can attend. And our Angular workshops are Berlin in February, Essen in March, Hamburg in April. Yeah, and for sure, there are way more dates for this. These are the dates yet planned for this year. But we have way more slots in there. We are at this platform. We are, I guess, around about 10 trainers to train and do workshops. So we can do a lot. And what you don't see here are the in-house workshops for sure. Yeah, these are only the public workshops. You can attend or ask us.
And if people want to come and meet you and have a drink and buy you a beer, they can see you. You're going to be at NG Viking?
Yeah, for sure. I'm at NG Viking. Wait, I just...
Next year, I need to go to NG Viking because all the cool kids are going to be at NG Viking.
I think you should definitely do that. Wait,
awesome.
I'm looking for this one. So now
I
you
can
see
stop
me?
you. I can take you off the presentation mode. That was awesome.
Okay.
That was a really good talk. Thank you so much for teaching us cool stuff about unit testing. I was getting a little nervous there at the end because it wasn't working, but then it worked out. So all the tests are running. You can go to production.
Yeah.
And so I think you should especially get bonus points for staying up so late. It's like, what, is it 2 o'clock in the morning where you're at?
It's 2:40. So nearly 3 o'clock.
Awesome. That was really cool. I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us and staying up late for us.
So next time we meet in real life, you have to buy me a drink or something like this.
I will. I sure will. Yeah, you earned it. That was awesome. That was a really good show. Okay, so I put your Twitter link in the chat. So if anybody wants to go and check you out on Twitter, they can. And you'll have to come back again and visit us soon.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I close my